Hey guys, just wanted to do a quick video on this because I don't see many people planning on making a video about this. I feel like this is more Quebec news, but I feel like it pertained enough to entertainment that I thought I'd give my 2 cents on it. So Mike Ward, French-Canadian comedian from Quebec, uh, passed, I don't know when this happened, it was a few years ago, but he did a joke about a disabled kid called Le Petit Jérémy, or Le Petit Jérémy, translates to Little Jeremy in English. He's a stand-up comedian, this Mike Ward gentleman. Many American audience members probably saw him on Joe Rogan. That was probably his bigger introduction to America. But anyway, this guy, he's a really raunchy comedian. If I had to compare him to an American stand-up comedian, he's along the lines of a Daniel Tosh. And he was doing this joke about Le Petit Jérémy. He said that this kid, Petit Jérémy, who was dying of some disease. I forget what's the exact disease he has, but it causes him to be like mentally challenged a bit and physically challenged. But anyway, he was doing a joke about how this kid was in the Make a Wish Foundation, and his wish was to perform live in front of an audience singing, and his singing wasn't really good, and basically the joke is that he keeps getting his wish granted, but he's not dying, and he wants to kind of he can't really defend him at this point because even though his singing is bad, it's like, dude, you're doing Make a Wish Foundation and you're not dying. That was the gist of the joke. At a certain point in the joke, he was like, I just want him to die already. I'm gonna go to the water park and drown him and suffocate him and stuff like that. Got a little edgy to say the least. That's why I compare him to a Daniel Tosh. Personally, I'm not the biggest Mike Ward fan. I think he veers too much as a Daniel Tosh in the sense that he'll just say something very offensive and it's not particularly funny. But that C. Jérémy joke that he did, I thought that one was actually quite funny. But just in general, I'm not the biggest fan of his. The reason why it got so much public attention in Quebec and in Canada is because it posed a debate. Le Petit Jérémy ended up suing Mike Ward, and it became this ethical debate. When does a joke kind of go too far? When is it freedom of speech versus hate speech? Those were the charges that were brought on Mike Ward, being hate speech or making fun of Betsy Jérémy because of his handicap and because of his disease. Uh, so this case lasted quite a bit of time, a couple of years, and I'm sure a lot of it got delayed because of the pandemic. But news just came in that Mike Ward won the case. This was a case of freedom of speech, and he ultimately was left off the hook. I think this is a pretty big accomplishment for entertainment, and we were talking earlier about the closer, the Dave Chappelle special, and how there's a bunch of controversy, but I feel like as I'm reading people's reaction to the closer, I feel like people are veering more on the side of comedy is freedom of speech. You get to say whatever you want. And this incident here that happened, Mike Ward winning this court case, is just further cementing that feeling. I feel like the people who do get offended at these jokes tends to be a vocal minority. Now, in the case of Mike Ward, what is a little troublesome is the fact that it went to such a superior court and that it wasn't just squashed immediately and it had to keep going up and up. And I feel like the sentiment in Canada, just from my circle of friends, is that people were a little pessimistic about this one. People were thinking that ultimately Le Petit Jérémy was going to win the court case. Or it was his mother that filed the court case, but still defending him. Yeah, people were pretty pessimistic. They're like, oh, he's not going to win it. Canada sucks. It's lame. And my American friends, I have an American friend who's like a total America shill. And he was like, wait, Canada doesn't have freedom of speech. She's going to lose. And I'm like, it's more complex than that. The way I see it is that there's like some buttons that both countries don't like to be pressed. Canada doesn't like hate speech. America doesn't like obscenity. And there's been examples in America of obscenity charges when it should have been freedom of speech. And there are examples in Canada of it being hate speech when it should have been freedom of speech as well. This is a great victory for freedom of speech, though. It's a great victory for entertainment. It's a great victory for comedy. Love or hate the stand-up bit. Again, I'm not the biggest Mike Ward fan. I thought that bit was funny, but in general, I'm not his biggest fan. Uh, eh, Freedom of speech has to prevail when it comes to stand-up comedy, because as soon as you start censoring stand-up comedy, as soon as you start censoring film, as soon as you start censoring art, then it becomes a slippery slope. What becomes acceptable, what doesn't become acceptable. So I'm happy to see that Mike Ward finally won that case, and that he's not going to face any legal charges. Neither should he, and neither did I think he was going to face legal. Uh, well, I can't fucking speak today. Jeez, I didn't think he was going to face legal charges. Uh, I don't think if it reached this high up in the court, the federal court, I think they would have veered on the side of freedom of speech rather than the side of hate speech. Uh, yeah, and a lot of people were thinking because it's Trudeau the prime minister, and he's all about that like identity politics and putting up a show and doing the whole just all about the facade basically. So people thought Mike Ward was gonna get in trouble. I wasn't really thinking it, to be honest, but yeah, it's a slippery slope, guys. Like we got to make sure that uh, art is safe from the government. So anyway, just thought I'd say that. What are your thoughts on the Mike Ward situation? What are your thoughts on Mike Ward's comedy? Do you think that Le Petit Jérémy was probably right in this situation? Comment below, let me know. By the way, just before I go, there's a great tribute to Norm Macdonald that Mike Ward did on his Twitter. Go check it out. But anyway, I'll see you guys.